Okay, students, good morning. It is 8:40, and I am going ahead and making another short video for you to introduce you to the book. Kind of go real quick through what you need to pay attention to right away. So, on the English 101, if you did not get my um, syllabus yet, or if you haven't looked at the syllabus yet, you want to check out the syllabus because you can get this book now online for $26 and change. $27. You can actually have it online, which is going to be the preferred way to have it because that way you can fill things out right on the page and then email it to me or take a picture of it, whatever, and send it to me so that you can show me that you've done the work when it's due. So this is the way that you're going to want to do it. All right, I'm checking to make sure that everything's working here. Looks good. Okay, so so I'm in the book now, and let's go through here and look at a few pages. So let's see the table of contents here. We're going to look at these first few parts here real quick. Just going to go through real quick. So if you look at chapter 1, if I can get to it here real quick. This information I'm skipping through here. You can look at if you need to, but it's not really necessary to the class. It might be helpful to you. So here's chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the overview of English 101. And so you should read this and get a good idea of what the class entails, and that way you can get back to me if there's anything you do not understand. You guys are big boys and girls, so I expect you to go through and look at these things on your own, and then if you have questions about anything, you can email me or Skype or Google Hangouts during my office hours from 2 to 3 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays. Okay, so take note of that if you haven't already. So here's one of the first major things. Let me go back and make sure. This is just an overview. This is one of the first things you're going to want to notice is kind of a breakdown of what the three different areas of grading will be. As I mentioned in the other video, this is a portfolio system. So this is your rubric right here for what the portfolio grading should look like. So a superior portfolio course and A portfolio will demonstrate originality, initiative, and so forth and so on. You read these, make sure you understand what these mean. And so that's for the portfolio part, which is 70% of your grade. Exploratory writing is the other writings that you do on a daily basis that are not the actual essay itself. Okay, so this is the handouts and worksheets in the book and stuff that you'll complete, but basically everything that you will write that's not the actual essays themselves. Okay, this is the participation grade. Again, read this over, make sure you understand what it means to participate. Now, obviously, online is different. For online participation, you'll see that in the syllabus, but for online participation, just you have to make sure that you log in several times throughout the week to show me that you are working on this classwork. Okay, if you do not show up and if you do not log in and I don't see that you're doing anything in a given week, then that will hurt your participation grade. And even though it's only 10%, just be aware that that 10% will add up quickly to hurt you if you don't do it. Okay, so make sure you understand that. Policies and procedures, of course, you'll get more information about the conferences as we get closer to them. But the conferences, of course, we will only do 2 times since it's an online class and it's only going to be for 6 weeks. So 2 times instead of 4. And we will be doing those later on. But there's information in the syllabus again about that, about absences and that kind of thing. So just remember that since this is an online class, some of this stuff is going to obviously be different. Okay. There's a discussion about late work on the syllabus. Cheating, plagiarism, just don't do it. Pretty simple. Don't need to worry about those. The course goals for this class are goal number 1, rhetoric. Be able to understand what rhetoric is and how it works. Inquiry, processes, and conventions. Those are talked about more specifically here in the next few pages. Rhetoric's here, inquiry, processes, conventions. Just be sure you understand what those all mean. Be ready and able later on in the classwork to be able to discuss those things. Okay, and that's chapter 1. All right, this part here is called the PACT pages. As you can see, it stands for Purpose, Audience, Conventions, and Troubleshooting. Trouble. These pages are not required. This goes from, I forget how many pages it is, but it's from 15 to like 30 or 40 something, I think. Anyway, there's several pages. There's 4 pages of each. So there's going to be 4 P's pages, 4 A pages, 4 C pages, and 4 T pages. If you turn these in with your final essays at the end of each week, if you turn these packed pages in with that, that will give you some extra credit, so to speak. In other words, instead of getting a 1 for having done it, you'll get maybe a 2 to show that you did extra work. Okay, and that will of course help you to offset any ones that you don't get later on. The grading system I'll talk about here in a minute too, or maybe on a separate video, we'll see. Okay, so the packed pages, like I said, there's a bunch of packed pages, and I'm just going to kind of skip through those. Bear with me for a second here while I get past these. There's a bunch of them. Okay, here's chapter 2. Now, chapter 2 is what you should be starting on as well this week. So, chapters 1 and 2, both you need to do this week. Chapter 1 is basically just reading material. Make sure you understand it. Questions, if you need it, ask them. Chapter 2 is where you're going to start actually working on your first paper. First paper is a narrative, and it's a specific type of paper. It's a little bit different from what you might be used to when you think of a narrative. The narrative paper in this case is what's called a multi-genre narrative. And what that means is you will be expected to, instead of just writing a plain old boring 4 or 5 page essay on something that happened in your life or whatever, a narrative essay, you're going to be asked to incorporate other genres within that. And you'll see how that works in the sample essay that's in this chapter, as well as the sample essay that's on eCampus. Other genres would be things like poetry, memos, emails, letters, pictures, sketches, charts, graphs, things like pie charts. I mean, you name it. If it's something that helps to tell your story, then it's fine. You can try to use it, incorporate it. Okay? Since this is all online, you could even go so far as to put a short, very short, like maybe a minute or less, but you could even include a very short, brief video link in your paper that would send me to a very short video that might help to tell your story in this case. So very interesting things you can do with this paper. All right, so go through these pages, fill them out as they say to do. This first paper is due on Friday this week. Everything that you do will be due on Fridays. So this Friday is the first narrative essay is due. There's a free writing assignment here. Just go ahead and do that. Read the instructions and do what it tells you to do. Very simple. Annotating a text. Read the instructions here and then simply use this with the sample essay that comes in this book. So you could do this stuff right on the sample essay. And I'll show you that here in just a second. Reading like a writer, that's just an activity to kind of go through and do that the way it says. Another activity to do, just do what it says. These should be pretty easy to do if you just read the instructions. Tension turn, another activity to do, just make sure you read the instructions. Now this is your 3 choices of what you can do your paper on. So you might say this is basically your prompts, your assignment prompts. I would suggest that you not worry about number 2. Number 2, I never have anybody do it because I don't think it makes for a very good paper. So I would not do number 2. I would just kind of mark that one out. Forget about page 2. Okay, or number 2 here, 3 readers. So what you want to choose is you want to do either 3 moments or number 3, flash draft. Either one of those 2 you can do. Just let me know which one you want to do in your journal and or in your well, also in your journal for sure, and it might even be a subject for discussion on the discussion board as well if you wanted to post it and maybe ask questions or something or talk about it. Okay, so that's what that page is all about. All right, let's move on. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. Here's another page that you can ignore. Don't worry about this one. You do not have to do page 55 here. Okay, so do not worry about that one. Understanding feedback is an activity you do need to do. And then the peer review is what you guys will do later, so don't worry about that right yet. Polishing your paper, you will need to do that by the end of the class, by the end of this week with your essay once you have it done. Now here is the sample essay that's in the book. It's not one of my favorites. I don't really like it a whole lot just because I don't care a whole lot for the content, but it does give you a good example of how to use some other types of genres. Notice he starts with a journal. A journal would be a type of genre, right? Okay, so he has a journal, and then he goes on the next page. He has basically a discussion here where he gives a speech and how that turned out. And that goes on to the next page here, page 62. And then here at the bottom of 62, he has a poem. Presumably he himself created it because he doesn't attribute it to anybody else. So he has this weird little poem here that you may or may not understand, but that's okay if you don't understand it. That would be something you could talk about, discuss on the discussion board, or even in your journal to me. Here's an example of using a chart where he shows an old saying. There's an old saying that says, the more I know, the more I realize what I don't know. And that's kind of what he's showing here on this chart. So again, interesting, different way of using multiple genres rather than just a boring, plain old 4 or 5 pages of writing, right? And then a stream of consciousness here, what he ends it with. Okay, and that's the sample essay. And that is also what you can use to do that annotation assignment that I mentioned in the, several pages back. The annotation assignment can be done with this sample essay that we just looked at. Okay, the sample essay that starts here on page 60 or 59. Sorry. Okay, so that is what you will be working on for this week. If you have any questions, concerns, whatever, then don't hesitate to email me. And also, of course, you want to remember that on Mondays, which will be today, of course, and on Wednesdays, my office hours will be from 2 to 3 p.m., during which time you can email me and expect me to be ready to answer you right away. Also, during that time, you can Skype me, and that Skype address, my Skype address, and my Google Hangouts address are right there on the syllabus. My Google Hangouts will just simply be the my Mix address, jgriever@mix.wvu.edu. Okay, so that would be for the Gmail or Google Hangouts. I'm sorry, and the Skype one is also on the syllabus. So I will talk to you in probably another video soon. Okay, have a good one.